Greetings, I am Crystal Johnson with the Gaia Report, and today we have a special guest. His name is Jim Heffron, and he is a teacher at the Boston Public School System, specifically at the Joyce Kilmer School.
Yes.
And I want to just thank you for your role as a teacher, where essentially you are empowering youth to be, great active citizens, and that's, phenomenal and respect it. But you also
Thanks.
add, another component, and you help educate and inspire regarding the environment and environmental issues, and more than that, to come up with, critical thinking around it for solutions.
Right.
So can you share with me what has inspired you to navigate towards that path? Because it's my understanding that your background is in social studies.
Right. Yeah. So I teach social studies at Joyce Kilmer Upper School in West Roxbury. It's a
Okay.
Boston public school. One of the classes that I teach is 7th grade world geography.
Nice.
And the curriculum in 7th grade, world geography, we go from one region to another. We look at culture and obviously the geography of those regions.
Right.
But one thing that I found really engages the students is the environmental issues. And that's pervasive
great.
throughout the world, obviously. So when we look at North America, we're going to be looking at the ecosystems of the Great Lakes. When
Right.
we look at South America, we're going to be looking at the use of the rainforest. When we
Nice.
look in Europe, a lot of transboundary pollution in Europe. Countries so close
yes.
together, that's an
Yes.
issue. Africa, water resources. The Middle East, the use of energy
Oh,
and
wow.
consumption of energy.
Right.
So these global issues, oftentimes students have a hard time grasping what can I do
It's true.
and how does this apply
Right.
to my life.
Right.
So with the Youth Climate Adaptation Fair
Yes.
that we organized and did at our school this past spring, we were able to really bring that home for students, that whole idea of think globally, act locally.
Yes.
Where they're thinking globally, looking at these big issues, and then saying, okay, what's the plan of action?
Right.
What can we do at a local level? What can I do
Yes.
in my everyday life?
Right.
And that very much ties into social studies and change and civics,
Right.
essentially.
Well, one thing that I find refreshing is that, I meet many people who have, an understanding of environmental issues, and they approach it, particularly with youth, through science. But I value that you approach it through that social studies aspect, and I
Right.
think that gives, a different perspective. It provides a greater context and helps them understand, like, their role and how it all comes together.
Right.
So how would you like to elaborate, on that issue as far as, like, there is value in teaching environmental or climate adaptation issues, not as part of science, but outside of it in a
Right.
different perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think science obviously does a nice job explaining why these things are happening and looking at what are scientists doing to solve these problems.
Right.
But in social studies, I see that as a place where we can talk about the human impact
Right.
on the environment.
Right.
So as humans, what are we doing in our daily lives
Right.
that is having a negative or a positive impact
Right.
on the environment?
Right.
So for social studies, where you're talking about teaching students how to be engaged and active citizens, that's really right in that wheelhouse. And this
Right.
it's a great topic to get students engaged and to create some project-based learning where they're really thinking about an important issue, and then also what can I do?
Right.
And that's huge in social studies, because sometimes, especially in 6th grade, I teach ancient history.
Right.
So that's a little bit harder to like find ways to connect.
Make it relevant.
You know,
Right.
so with the environmental issues, and they've been going on throughout time,
Right.
that
Right.
we can really engage and connect students that way.
One thing for environmental issues, many people think that it is just a science-related issue and it only impacts ecologically.
Right.
But for me, the true understanding is that environmental issues are public health issues,
Yeah.
and that those are rooted in their social issues. They affect all of us. It's not that it's we're going to impact trees or the ocean over there. They're immediate public health impacts,
Right.
and aside from the ecological too. And so understanding that approach and, making sure then that
Yeah.
that social awareness.
And the politics
of it.
behind it. The
Yes.
politics behind initiatives and climate change and getting, global climate change, countries coming together and working on fixing
Yes.
some of these problems.
And I was really pleased that you had reached out, to me because, as I mentioned on a different show, the Town of Brookline Climate Adaptation Science Fair that I developed to help really
Yeah.
inspire and educate children to be
Right.
change agents,
Yeah.
that you then responded, and that really was significant because then that has more impact and ripples out, and then you're another point of light, and then it
Right.
spreads from there.
Yeah.
And one thing I would love to say to the people watching this, that for whatever town you are in, or a community group, or religious institution, or any type of group of people, family, friends, organize a climate adaptation challenge, which essentially is an environmental science fair. It can be from kindergarten all the way up to high school, even beyond. You could have families doing challenges, and you come up with a sustainable solution for any issue. And you can think big, think creative, think outrageous, but I really designed it, and you had, advanced it so that the youth just participate in critical thinking, and then they're inspired and empowered to be a change agent.
Right.
So I want to say thank you on behalf of Mother
Thank you.
Nature for
Yeah.
all the work that you do,
Okay.
and thank you for joining the Gaia Report.